Good morning. Today's the release day for book 4 in the Nature Hunter series, Tamed by Air. I had to think about the title, and I'm very excited, obviously. Excuse me, as you guys know, I'm also very nervous. I tend to get nervous on release days. It doesn't matter how many books I've published, I will always be nervous. There's this expectation to meet, and I'm thankful that you guys love my books, but I always am trying to top the last book, or at least, at the very least, make the book as good as the last one. So there's just that worry that it won't be. And not just for the sake also of the fact that obviously I don't want to let you guys down, but for monetary reasons. This is our only source of income. Bo works for Quinn Loftus Books LLC, and I work for Quinn Loftus Books LLC. There's no fallback plan. Although my husband does have 3 degrees, he hasn't worked outside in the, normal world in 8 or 9 years, and neither have I. So if this whole book thing were to fall through, we would both be working, like, I don't know, somewhere. I don't know. It would be difficult for him to go back to, practicing law, because he hasn't done it in so long. And I don't have a nursing license anymore, so I could work as a medical assistant, but I couldn't work as a nurse. So I'm really hoping that this whole book thing continues to pay the bills. So I thought that I would read an excerpt for you guys from Tamed by Air. I will try not to do any spoilers. I will put a spoiler alert just in case. Spoiler alert. Just in case. So, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to look at my hair. It's so bad. I'm getting a cold or a sinus infection. I don't know which. And so I don't feel great. You guys are probably wondering what happened here. So Bo and I were building a fire pit. A bigger fire pit. We had one, but we needed, golly, this is terrible. We needed a bigger one. So we have rocks on our property, lots of rocks, like mega rocks. We have big ones, small ones. So we were moving, and shifting rocks around. And I was down on the ground forming the circle. And I had just moved a rock, and I rested my hand on that rock, and my fingers were kind of laying over the edge. I don't know how I had it. I don't know. But Bo was emptying the gator, that little vehicle that looks like a high-tech golf cart with the bed on it. It was full of rocks, and he was emptying that out, and he was just dropping the rocks on the ground. Well, where I was at, there was an incline, so he didn't realize that it would roll as fast as it did, or as far as it did, and so he dropped this rock, and I don't remember how big it was, but it rolled, and I didn't have time to get my hand out of the way when he shouted, "Hey, watch out!" And so the rock crushed this finger against the rock that it was resting on. So I didn't get it x-rayed, but the tip, I'm pretty sure there's some sort of fracture in there. It's extremely painful. It's very swollen and motley looking and ugly. So I just went and got a splint, and that's what they would do at the ER. They would just stick a splint on it. So it's not crooked or anything. There's not like a bone sticking out or an obvious, where it would need to be reset. More than likely, it's probably just a hairline fracture or something like that. So that's what that is. So you can imagine that typing is quite frustrating. I mean, I can type, but because I'm using my fingers incorrectly on the QWERTY keyboard, I'm having to move this hand over one key in order for me to, so the J is where you would normally have your pointer finger. And so I'm having to use my middle finger on that. So I'm one letter off, and I'm doing okay, but it's still very, very frustrating. So anywho, okay, I'm going to read this excerpt. I'm not a great reader out loud, so I'll try to slow down because I tend to go fast, and hopefully I won't stumble over my words too badly. It's easy to focus only on the negative things that happen in our lives. Oftentimes, bad things block our view of the good things and then drag us into a pit of hopelessness. Knowing that, we should try our best to see only the positive in life, taking time to dwell on the joyful moments, even when we're trapped in the midst of the worst hell imaginable. Yes, I realize that is easier said than done. I'm not a complete idiot. Tara. I don't think he's okay, Tara whispered to Elias as she stared across the room where Ra sat alone. He looks like he's either going to stab the next person who walks too close or himself. Neither is a great outcome. The runes that Avira had placed on Ra had faded, though Tara knew their power was still in place. Otherwise, Ra would have been in hell already. The power of the runes was the only thing keeping him from flying after Shelley. Since the world had gone to hell in a handbasket and subsequently rescued by the combined forces of the kick-ass light elemental spirits and their human elementalist allies, life had mostly returned to normal, or at least the new normal Tara had come to know. She'd settled into her life in classes at Terra Academy, training to use her power to control the earth so she could fight dark elemental spirits. She continued to learn about what it really meant to be a soul bonded. For example, not only did the bond prevent the shattered soul from being pulled into the darkness, but the bond had begun to put the pieces of Terra's soul back together. Every time she and Elias used their magic in conjunction with each other, she could feel herself being knitted back together. Tara and Gabby had talked about their experiences with a bond, and Gabby had expressed that she experienced the same thing. It made her wonder what that meant for Ra and Shelley. Their bond wasn't a traditional soul bond, but one given by Osiris and then finished by Avira when he gave Shelley the ability to wield fire. Tara wondered if Ra was losing his mind because he was separated from Shelley, and not just because he was worried about her being trapped in the underworld. Was he in physical pain because of the separation from his soulmate? For Tara and Elias, being apart physically could become uncomfortable quickly. Tara again experienced the pain of being separated from Elias a few times, even though it was by choice on her part because they'd argued and she'd stepped away in order to keep from clobbering him. Even for just a couple of hours, there was discomfort while separated, but the level increased when the separation was not desired. Elias hadn't wanted her to leave when they'd been arguing, but Tara's temper had been growing, and she hadn't wanted to say something she couldn't take back. Eventually, he'd come and found her sitting in the library, not entirely against her will. He had carried her back to their room. She could still hear his voice in her head as she remembered that night. "Don't leave me next time, please," he growled as his arm flexed around her. "I was mad, Elias. My next step was going to be physical harm. I'm pretty sure that's not the way to have a healthy relationship. Neither is feeling like my skin is being peeled from my bones while my insides try to claw through to my outsides," he huffed. "Next time, yell, kick, and hit me with a damn lamp. And then let me distract you with makeup sex. No more of this walking away to be the bigger person nonsense." Tara's lips turned up at the memory. She had to agree that his way had its merits. Regardless of all the things she learned, she constantly found herself worried about Ra. Though he came to classes, there wasn't anything in the curriculum about a soul bond created by the Lord of the Underworld. It wasn't like he was gleaning anything useful. Sometimes she looked at him and saw a vacant look in his eyes that gutted her. Tara was amazed at his ability to keep going, to keep coming to class, to keep functioning, when it was obvious he was devastated. It was written on his face in the lines of stress and the shadows under his eyes. His depression was evident in his tense body and constantly clenched fists. When she wasn't worried about Ra, Tara's mind kept wandering to her best friend Shelley, who was currently being held in hell against her will. Isn't everyone in hell being held against their will? There she went again, getting distracted. And finally, there was Aston, literally snatched up off the ground by a wild dragon-riding girl. Who knew what she wanted with Aston? Considering she'd kidnapped him, it probably wasn't anything good. Learning about her newfound powers was amazing, and Tara wished she could focus on them more, but her heart wasn't fully devoted to her efforts because of her worry for her friends. Tara was very thankful she had Elias to help her endure. Since being bonded to him, Tara had noticed that despite all of the crap they were going through, things didn't seem as dark as they might have been if she didn't have him. She remembered what her life had been like before being bonded, before she knew about the supernatural world. Back then, she'd just been trying to survive from day to day. Colors seemed dimmer, air seemed stuffier, and even small problems felt like too much to face. Elias wasn't a miracle cure, but having him with her to bear the burden and feeling his love through their bond and his own power flowing into her definitely gave her more confidence to face it all. Let's just be glad Ra has been assigned to train here with us, Elias patted Tara's thigh. That way we can keep an eye on him. Keeping an eye on him isn't good enough, Elias, she said, not for the first time. It's been 2 weeks, and we have done nothing to get Shelley back. He needs reassurance that she isn't lost to us for good, that Shelley's rescue is still priority number one. Hell, Tara threw her fork down. I need reassurance. Elias sighed and rubbed his brow. Tara reached up and ran a hand across his back. I'm sorry. Tara's frustration over Ra's suffering and the abduction of Shelley and Aston often made her forget what her soul bonded was enduring. He'd recently lost Jax, who was not only a mentor but a friend. I don't mean to add to your stress. Neither of them was a stranger to death, but no one at the academy was. The death of their parents brought them to the academies in the first place, but losing someone was never easy, no matter how many times it happened. Elias shook his head. Don't apologize. Jax is gone. Zuri is gone. Nothing can be done about that. Shelley and Aston are not gone. They're simply on unintended adventures. She snorted. Is that what we're calling it? As worried as Tara was about her friend, she also knew that Shelley could hold her own, and Tara didn't think Osiris would hurt Shelley. He wanted her as a mate, not as a whipping post. So, that's an excerpt from Tamed by Air. I hope that you guys will enjoy it if you read it. If you haven't read that series, book 1 is on sale for 99 cents. And so I hope that that will spur your interest. I know some of my loyal Grey Wolves readers have a really hard time breaking away from the Grey Wolves series and trying something new. I totally understand it, but I hope that you will. Know that my writing voice stays the same across my books. The stories may be different, the characters may be different, but my writing voice stays the same and my humor stays the same. It's kind of a part of me. It's kind of ingrained in me. So maybe that'll put you guys at ease. Hope you enjoyed this. Please, if you could, share and tell others. Word of mouth is the biggest selling point for books or for self-published authors. Also, if you've read it, I don't like to beg, but if you wouldn't mind leaving a review at whatever venue you bought it at, iBooks, Amazon, Dream, wherever. I don't know if it's on Dream yet. Anywho, if you would leave a review, that would be fantastic. The algorithms on those platforms is strongly influenced by the number of reviews. That's how we get seen. The more positive reviews we have, the more we get seen, the more we get attached to other books that are doing well within our genre. So that would be fantastic. Thank you guys. I appreciate everything y'all do for me. I appreciate that you guys give my books a chance, that when I don't necessarily meet your needs, you give me grace. And just thank you. Okay. Love y'all. Hope you have a great day. Today I'm working on book 17 in the Grey Wolf series. I'm trying to write book 5 in the Nature Hunter series and book 17 in tandem. It's challenging because there are similarities as far as, you have the Drahim in the Grey Wolf series and you have dragons in the Nature Hunter series, which are essentially the same thing. So, okay, that's all I got today. Y'all have a great day. Bye.